Well, let's get going with episode. I think we're on 42 here. Did I count correctly? I think it's
Sure.
42 of the Current Gen podcast. Whatever. It's the episode for the week right before Christmas here, the week of Christmas. So, of 2020. And hey, that means 2020 is coming to an end. That could be a good thing, right?
Finally, get the hell out of here. Nobody wants you. You're a terrible year. Terrible things have happened.
Exactly.
You know.
2021 is going to be so much better. According to Twitter, Joe Biden just told me that we're going to start healing as soon as he gets into office. We can all start healing. We
Hey,
can't start healing before that, but
listen.
we'll heal when he gets there.
People who were trying to look at the glass half full were like, you know what? Trump sucks, but let's just give him a chance. And we did. So we said we don't want 4 more years of this. So let's just see what Biden does, and if he sucks too, then he can get out of here. So
Yep, it's true.
you know,
It's very true.
democracy, Tim. Spider-Man knows everything about democracy.
Hang on, let me get something to my kids for their bedtime, and then we can get rolling here. Here, Thad.
Yeah.
Here, buddy. All right, well, it's here whenever you need it. All right, well, in case you listeners didn't know, I've got a lot of kids, and so getting them into bed, getting at least the situation quiet enough where I can have a little chat with my nerd friends. I'm sorry, with Spider-Man.
Yes.
Can be challenging, but it is what it is. But hey, we are here to talk about, of course, some games that we're playing, a couple of headlines that are out there. Before we do that, I'm just curious, what are you doing for Christmas time? Are you guys traveling? Are you guys shutting down all connection with family? Are you doing what are you guys going to do, you and your wife, for this Christmas weekend coming up?
Well, I'm gonna be swinging around, saving anybody that needs saving. Obviously, you know.
As you do.
Yeah. But when I'm not saving people and being awesome, yeah, no, it's just gonna be here at the house. The mom will be coming over, or my mom. I'm saying the mom, like there's just one. My mom will be coming over, and my sister and her fiance. So.
All right, so you are going to be seeing other people, hopefully totally masked and staying socially distanced the entire time. No family connections, no hugs allowed.
Well,
Right.
again, I'm wearing my suit. I'll probably keep the superhero costume on,
Okay, got
and
it.
tell them that me is not here. I'm somewhere else, but I came in his place, so
Me is
it's
not here.
yeah, me is not here. I don't know if you can actually see. I have the Spider-Man sweater.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
I think all the background's making it fade out
Oh,
now.
there we go.
But there it is. There it is. Look at that.
Yeah.
Dude, that is glorious.
Yeah. There
It's
was
got
one on
just the right amount of nostalgia and tackiness mixed together. I love it.
yeah. There was one that because my wife was trying to help me find one, and there was one on this website. I think it was based out of the UK. They
Oh,
was
okay.
like a website where they sold nerd shirts and so on and so forth, and then they had Christmas sweaters, and it was out of the UK. But like the delivery times were like just outrageous because COVID and everything. But it was actually like a legit a nice sweater. Like it had like some black on it, and it had like the spider design. I actually liked the look of that one way more. But I just didn't know if it was gonna get here on time, so I went with this one. But I think it's nice. I still think it's pretty nice. So
Nice. I
yeah,
like it. I dig it. Yeah, so we were gonna have family come in, but this
right.
Thanksgiving and Christmas have been the first holidays that we've had that I can remember where we haven't hosted family. We almost always host one of the three sets of grandparents that we've got in our crew. And this is the first time we're not. They've all canceled for various reasons, mostly involving, their age and Corona being bad for people of their age.
Yeah,
And they're just, they all decided we're just going to wait for the vaccine. And once that's out and there's a little more safety and comfort around traveling and socializing, then they'll make the trip out. But it's been kind of nice. Like Thanksgiving, we had friends over instead of family. We had a lot of fun. It was just like a day visit, and that was
yeah.
it. We didn't have to host anyone overnight. It was families with kids, our kids' ages, so they got to play. So that was good. And then for this Christmas, it really is just us, and that's never been the case. It's never been just us, just our crew. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to put on as much of a, I shouldn't say
Spectacle.
show. Yeah, not as much of a spectacle for real, because you don't have to like entertain everybody. You don't have to
Yeah.
do all that. So I'm looking
I
forward to
mean,
it.
I'm all about being around less people in general, Tim. Not even just because of pandemics. I just like to chill. So,
Right. Yeah,
you know,
humans aren't your thing. I gotcha. I
they
gotcha.
are, but I'm very selective,
Yeah,
very
that's
selective.
fair. That's totally fair.
So, and also with
Um,
having lived in, a nightmare apartment situation for 2 years, I think my wife and I are kind of like making up for lost time and
that's
just kind of,
right.
you know, enjoying the quiet. So it's the
Yeah,
first
because you
Christmas
guys
in the new
just bought
house.
this house this year,
Yeah,
2020.
it was either March or April. So
Yeah, right around pandemic kicking into high gear.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
a little literally right in the beginning. Like it was like the stages of like when they were first saying maybe stay about 6 feet away from people. So
I remember that. And then there was also like, nah, masks don't do anything. And they're like,
yeah,
you know what? Never mind. Masks are pretty good. Put those on.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I remember all that stuff. What made your apartment so bad? What made it nightmarish?
Well, so well, it's annoying. So there was actually two apartments in a span of I want to say maybe a year and a half. It was the same landlord. And coincidentally, it was actually the landlord that my wife's sister had rented an apartment from, her and her boyfriend at the time. Um, her and her husband, they, at the time, she said they are nice people. They're great landlords, but there's this mom and two kids, so single mom, two kids that lived kind of like diagonally from them. Um, she told them that like, oh, they're kind of loud. They like to party sometimes, but they're actually good kids. Blah blah blah. But like, long story short, essentially they were not good kids. They were very loud. They would have parties out in the parking lot until the wee hours of the night. Even like if it was like a Wednesday night, just like for hours, they would just be partying, and
Ugh,
it would be right outside their bedroom because they were
the
on the.
youth. Ugh.
But no, these were like over 18-year-olds. Like they were not kids. So they were just a bunch of pieces of you know what.
That's
Um,
what you tell yourself at least when you think back on all the times you beat them up. I
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But when they moved out and then we went to move in, we asked her like, "Hey, do those people still live here? Because we're aware of them." Like, like my wife was like, "My sister, lived in the apartment and she told us about them. Do they still live here?" And the landlord, she told us no, and they did. So when we moved in, they were having parties and so on and so forth. So we were at that apartment for about 6 months, and then we're like, listen, like we need, is there any? Because she owned multiple buildings. I was like, is there any way we can move to a different building or something, a more quieter one? Like, and she did move us to one, but it also wasn't quiet. So it
Dude.
just,
Yeah, I
yeah.
can see how getting to your own standalone single family home must be quite a relief
Yeah.
comparatively.
And I know, like,
Yeah.
to some people, it's like, oh, you're being so pretentious. It's like, this is apartment living. It's like, that's an excuse, all right? Like, it shouldn't just be, it's apartment living, and that's just the excuse for people to be rude and inconsiderate. Like, it's not even just the noise, it's just how people act. Like, people in some of those types of apartments, they act like they're living in a house. It's their house and no one else is around, and they just kind of do whatever. And
Totally.
it's like, no, it's a shared space. Like, have some mutual respect.
You almost have to treat it as if you're living in the same house and there's people who live in the bedroom right next to you, and let's
Yeah,
be kind because
yeah,
that's what you're doing. The only difference is there's external exits from your room. That's the only difference.
yeah.
And you have your
So
own kitchen. But we've had some pretty rough, we've had some good apartment experiences, but we had some pretty rough ones right when our first kiddo was born. Brand new parents, brand new baby, just trying to figure this stuff out. And there's a family below us, and they turns out that uh, it was like three families living all together in a two-bedroom
oh,
apartment, and
seriously?
yeah, and two of those families were not here legally.
Oh, okay.
The main family, the folks that we interacted with when we first moved in, were like, they're so sweet, they're very nice, no problems.
Mhm.
They like to play their music loud, but we can deal with that. But over time, it became obnoxiously loud. They would bang all the time. They were in and out all times of
Sure.
day and night. There was just so many people
Yeah.
in there. And so, I mean, there were times when I would real passively aggressively, more really aggressively stomp around the apartment because we were above them, and they were
Oh,
below us.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I just hated that so much. And that's when we made the move to a
Yeah.
single family house and never looked back. That was our last apartment experience.
It makes you act like in ways that you don't want to. Like you're a chill guy, Tim. I wouldn't really think of you being all like I'm gonna stomp around and piss but you
Yeah.
don't want to be that way. You don't mean to be that.
Dude, I'm telling you, those scenarios bring out the worst in all
Oh
of
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And that
Absolutely.
definitely did it for me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
buying a
Totally.
house is a big thing, and it can be stressful, but like it's
Yep.
just so much nicer than living in an apartment. So
Yeah. We're
yeah.
actually looking at maybe refinancing a little bit. I'm not sure if we want to there's like two paths. One is to refinance to get a bunch of money to do a bunch of stuff. The other
Hmm.
path is refinance to get a much shorter mortgage, pay a little more, and
Okay.
but then get it, paid off sooner. So
Yeah.
we're looking at it because the rates apparently are really great right now. I don't know. I'm not in real estate. That's just I hear that from folks.
Yeah.
It's
I was
also just
hearing
kind
that
of
too.
like something someone says, like, "Oh, the real estate insurance or the interest rates are great right now," and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Really?"
Thanks, Grandpa.
Yeah,
It's always some older person.
usually,
Uh,
but
so you plan on staying there, like, because I know you guys have moved around over the years. So
we have moved around a lot. No, we've been here longer than anywhere else, any other
okay.
house or apartment, in our 16 years of being married. And I don't see us moving anytime soon outside of, some sort of necessity that we can't anticipate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if things stay as they are currently, we plan on staying here. And if we do move, it wouldn't be very far from here. It would be like, hey, we just want to be away from there's a loud road right behind our house.
Sure.
It's a pretty major road. Um, or maybe we like the layout a little differently. Or now that I'm working from home all the time, regardless of pandemic,
Hmm.
maybe I want a more dedicated office. So I can see us moving for some of those reasons, maybe. But
Yeah.
it would be within the same town.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's nice.
So yeah, we feel pretty settled. Plus, our kids are going to the age where moving is no longer like a cute, fun adventure for them. It'd be like
Sure.
devastating. I can't believe you're doing this to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes
trying to
sense.
stay away. Trying to stay away from the drama if we can.
Yes.
But yeah, we do like it here. It's funny because the main office where I work now is based in a totally different state. So
Oh,
our
okay.
reason for moving here in the first place was job related, but now I have a new job that's not based here at all. We just really like living here,
Okay.
and since my job is 100% remote, they might have me travel in every once in a while. Once life travels back to normal, I might travel in every once in a while. But
Yeah.
yeah, for the most part, I'm able to work
Nice.
totally remotely. So
Nice.
I like every time I go out for a drive anywhere to go get something, whatever else. There's mountains right there. I'm always gonna love that. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah, I dig it. Spider-Man would like it too. I mean, you would like it too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. 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 I don't know if the webbing would stick to the map. I mean, I don't know. It's slippery, the ice. I don't know if the webbing would.
True.
Yeah. Have to make
That's a
new
good point.
webbing, new
That's a good
form.
point. Our downtown isn't much to get excited about.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not a whole lot of. I think you have like three buildings to thwip onto,
Just
and
keep
then
going in a circle.
yeah, and then you'd have to turn around.
Yeah.
But anyway, for those of you just listening, go check on YouTube if you want to see why in the world we keep referring to Spider-Man on this podcast.
Yes.
You have to see it to understand it. We both are also rocking some holiday backgrounds. Of course, Spider-Man, you look like you've got quite the Christmas lodge going on behind you.
Yeah.
It's
I didn't buy
very
a
impressive.
house. I bought a lodge. I
You bought a
bought like a,
lodge.
a big log cabin. I bought a log cabin. That's
It
actually
looks
what I.
like, man.
Yeah. It's very very warm, very festive.
I see that. I
Chestnuts roasting by the open fire.
my my wife's brother's name is Chester, and growing up, they used to sing to him "Chestnuts roasting on an open fire," and to this day, it still makes us both laugh.
Yeah.
Because it's
Names
funny, nuts.
names are funny.
But I just want to mention real quick a couple things I've been watching, and I think you have also been watching something.
Hmm.
Um, anyone listening to this, for the most part, you're probably also at least somewhat interested in Star Wars. Even if you don't love it, you're at least aware of what's going on in the Star Wars universe, and you know of the Mandalorian. It just aired its finale episode this past week. I
Hmm.
can't recommend it enough if you like Star Wars. Especially, I would actually say if you're like me and you just enjoy all Star Wars, even if they're not the best, you still just like it because it's a fun escape and
Yeah.
it's just a fantasy in space. It's just fun. Some folks take it super seriously, and they've been personally hurt and or offended by various trilogies that have come out. And
Sure.
I want to respect that, even though I'll also mock you for taking it that seriously. But I think The Mandalorian strikes most of the right tones with folks who really didn't like the newer
Mm.
trilogy. I think The Mandalorian does a great job of kind of reeling people back in who wanted something more like the old school Star Wars. Also, it gives me a lot of Firefly vibes from time to time. Not all the
Okay.
time, but enough. I just really, really like it. And the finale was just a great combination of wrapping up this specific story and also tying it into like a bigger potentially much bigger kind of Star Wars cinematic universe. Like I was mentioning this in our group that the way Marvel ties in all their movies,
Hmm.
and I think moving forward they're going to do the same thing with their upcoming TV shows. They have so many shows that are going to start coming out this year.
WandaVision.
Yep, and then
WandaVision.
the Falcon and Winter Soldier show.
Yep.
I think there were the Loki show that's going to come out. They're all going to
Yep.
tie in, and I think Star Wars is starting to do that too. We saw a bunch of things announced, even at the end of the show, the final after credits scene at the end of Mandalorian's finale, also pretty much announces a new show coming too. So,
Mm.
I highly recommend it if you're interested in Star Wars at all. It's really excellent, and I loved it.
I saw a
So,
bunch of people on Twitter like literally posting videos of themselves like sobbing because of the finale. I was like, what happened? Like,
well,
I mean, I know you're not. I know you can't say it because spoilers, but like everyone's being so like, oh my god, it's like,
yeah.
what the hell happened on the show?
Yeah, they did
Like,
some really cool stuff with it.
okay.
Like I'll be honest with you, if they end up not really having new episodes of the quote unquote Mandalorian show for a while,
Hmm.
and instead he is now included in some of these other shows, because a lot of the spin-off shows are going to involve characters that were introduced or reintroduced here.
Okay.
So if he is now just a main character on a few other shows for a little while, I don't think that's a bad thing. They did a good job of telling his arc.
Okay.
Um, over 2 seasons, and it could totally continue. Season 3 could be great, but it also could be a thing where they're handing it off to another central character, and he's now one of the side characters. Who knows? Who knows
Hmm.
how they're gonna move forward? But
Interesting, Tim.
I really like it. I like it a lot.
It's for me, it's weird because like so I'm obviously into superhero stuff. Obviously, if this mask isn't telling you anything.
I love
Um,
I love the guy Christmas Spider-Man saying, "So I'm into superhero stuff."
um, exactly. Right on the nose. Um, but like I'm not like a super huge fan of like so like the Venom movie, for example, with Tom Hardy. I didn't
Uh-huh.
watch it because I don't care about villain movies. I don't care about a movie where the centralized character is the villain. Same
Oh,
with the
interesting.
Joker. I didn't watch the Joker because I kind of just
Dude.
don't care. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Like
But listen, if you just think of it as not connected to the broader universe, here's just a really creative and amazingly acted version of that character. Oh, even if you just separate it from the fact that it's from the Batman comics, it's just a
Mhm.
movie about this guy and how he descends into madness. So good. So
But
good.
like so I guess for me the thing is, and maybe this is just such a like I'm not like big brain sort of movie watcher, but like I like just the simple like the good guy fighting the bad guy, and then usually the good
That's
guy
fair.
prevailing. It's
Yeah.
just, I mean, obviously you can have, I would like some complexity in there if you could put that in there, but just like when it's just the one angle, it's like oh the bad guy and like what happens with the bad guy. It's like, but like what else is going on? Like it's like I don't know. It's like
Yeah, no, that's fair.
what's the conflict, you know? Like is the bad guy fighting another bad guy? Like what's going, you know? Like
It's
does the
interesting you
Joker
say
fight
that
anybody in
because
that or?
I was which podcast was I listening to? It could have been Easy Allies. It could have been Game Scoop. I can't remember. I
Hmm.
binged a bunch of them while painting our room this weekend, but I just had podcasts on. But
Yeah.
anyway, um, one of them was talking about how TV shows specifically, but I think this can apply to games and movies too. They've gone a little too far on making it like all about the anti-hero,
Hmm.
and everyone's kind of awful. There's not really any good, totally, um, I shouldn't say pure, but like totally good characters.
Right.
It's all
Morally
not
great.
just it's not just flawed. It's like almost all of them are bad, and but the one that is centered around might have some charm to them that makes you root for that bad one. And Breaking Bad, of course, really, and The Sopranos, shows like that, they really double down on that. Where really no character in there is good and wholesome, and
Hmm.
the hero, they're all pretty bad. It's just one of them is maybe less bad or somehow more likable. So I think that was a really good point. That's a good call, and so I can see why villain-centered movies, whether it's Venom, Joker, even the Suicide Squad, some folks don't like for similar
Hmm.
reasons, where it's like, oh, cool, it's all about the bad guys. No thanks. So I
Yeah.
get that, but I do find it interesting if it ties back in well to how they now encounter our hero. And I also don't mind seeing it from another point of view. It's kind of like, we heard the story from this point of view. Now let's see it from another point of view. So I don't mind that at all, but I can see how yeah, I could see how that could be less interesting, especially for Spider-Man, who, by the way, has just unveiled himself. It's
The veil has been lifted,
Spider-Man is no more.
and the face is
Um,
sweaty. So
but yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
yeah, it's yeah. I that's probably most people. So I guess I'm just like a boring, you know, content viewer. But like I need there to be like I need there to be something versus something, like a conflict. If I'm gonna watch something superhero, I need there to be some sort of, I don't know. I mean, again, I haven't watched those, so maybe. I mean, is Tom Hardy fighting some sort of villain that we're familiar with? I mean, you don't have to say
I
specifically who the villain is, but
I have not watched Venom yet either.
okay.
So
What about the
the
Joker?
mediocre reviews turned me off. Joker, I saw it in theater and I bought it as soon as it was available digitally. I love that movie. I
Okay.
think the performances are just so amazing. Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic.
He is.
Robert De Niro is really good
Yeah,
in it too. Um,
I do
it's
love
just
Joaquin Phoenix.
it's just a really interesting take, and I love the setting too. It's kind of set in I want to say late 70s, early 80s, maybe. It's kind of in that time frame.
Hmm.
Might even be mid 80s, but
Oh,
I
the
thought it
Joker.
was, yeah,
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
yeah,
I did not know that.
yep. There's an encounter he has with a character that we're all very familiar with, and this character is a young boy at that time.
Mm,
So it's just letting you know that, hey, this was a long time ago, but also
okay.
just the settings very clearly. And it's just one of those things where you I've had conversations with some friends who didn't like it because they feel like it's dangerous to like glorify or create a hero out of someone who's clearly crazy and he's very dangerous and destructive and not a good person. And
Yeah.
I could see that, but also I didn't see it as glorifying it. I saw it as a really interesting observation from the outside looking in because I didn't relate to this character at all, but I
Hmm.
was watching him descend into madness and I could at least see, oh, that's one way this could have happened. That's one way this character could become the Joker that we all know from Batman.
Yeah.
That's an interesting take and I like it. Um, but anyway, I do highly recommend it for anyone if you're a movie buff as well. If you just like seeing really good performances, amazing writing, it's worth watching. It's really worth watching. I can't say the same about Venom. Haven't seen it. The
Yeah.
reviews on it were mediocre. So,
Definitely seemed like a lesser quality movie than the Joker one. So
which is a bummer because Tom Hardy is just as good an actor in my opinion as someone like
yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix. They're both right up there as like really, really excellent, or at least close, to being on the same level. But yeah, I just heard Venom wasn't the best, but.
Yeah.
Um, But anyway, yeah, that's what I've just finished up Mandalorian. I'm very excited for the other Star Wars and Marvel stuff that's to come. It's pretty exciting.
Cool.
What is the Promised Neverland?
So I brought this up before. So
Is
it's
this an
that
anime show?
yeah, so it's that
Okay.
anime that I told you about that has the children and they're
Yep.
like living in sort of like a foster home setting.
Yep.
And there's definitely some mystery going on. So my wife and I finished the first season. There's only the one season right now. Obviously, second
Okay.
season was delayed because of COVID. Second season should be starting January 7th, I believe.
Nice.
Um,
Nice.
so the ending was the first season excellent, very very good show. It ended in such a way where so they're definitely going to be moving to a different setting. They'll probably go back and maybe visit some of the characters that are um, still at the foster home. But there's some things that happened at the end of the first season that definitely they're going to be bouncing around, which is actually cool because then it's like the first season was just very centralized in this foster home area. You didn't really see a lot of what was going outside
Gotcha.
that
Gotcha.
particular area, which is part of the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had said previously you pretty much find out what's going on within this world of this show at the end of the first episode, like kind of who the villains are, so to speak, and what's going on, why the children are even in this foster home. Which is it's very dark. It's uh it's not for the faint of heart, Tim. It's not for the faint of heart.
Are you
Um,
saying that I'm faint of heart? I take that
well, you
personally.
have a lot of children, so this might hit you
Oh yeah,
in the
and we
places.
have done some foster care for quite a while now. So
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good call. That's a good
but
call. Hey, listen, sorry, my dog is whining. She's in a crate right near me. I'm just gonna take her out real quick, and I'll be
oh
right
sure.
back. Hold that thought. Get that Spider-Man outfit back.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that.
No worries. I wasn't speaking, so I'm assuming you'll have to just edit that chunk out.
How dare you? You should be entertaining people at all times.
All right. Well, I was trying to juggle. I mean, I don't know. I can't juggle, so
Maskless Spider-Man juggling. Who doesn't want to see that?
I know.
Listen, this one sounds interesting, and it's funny that it comes out that first week of January, the next season. That's also when Cobra Kai season 3 is supposed to hit.
Ah,
So we got
de-
a wave of stuff hitting in January.
definitely two different types of genres there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
But yeah, it's yeah. I really liked it. So my wife gets really attached to characters, so that's why sometimes it's difficult for her to watch stuff like this because like she doesn't like watching things that have death in it.
Oh
She's
yeah.
kind of a huge brat about it. I think I brought this up before. Like we watched Walking Dead up to a certain season, a certain character died, and even though like other characters died and she was upset but dealt with it, like this one was the last straw and she was done.
Yeah.
So, um, but she did like it. There's just a sort of there was kind of a cliffhanger with a certain character. We don't know what happened with this character. I have a feeling the character is fine. We don't know yet. Just the way that the final moment kind of happened, I was like, I think there's something going on here. So
I was just
um,
looking up where I could watch it. Looks like that's a Crunchyroll show.
it's on everything. If you want to watch it dubbed, it's on Funimation.
Oh, okay.
But if you don't care about like if you watch dubbed
Well, you
subs,
had said the dubs were actually pretty good on this one, so
yeah, I
didn't
didn't
bother
mind
you.
them.
Yeah.
99% of the time, I definitely prefer subbed, but
Yeah.
obviously for Renee's sake, just because it's easier to watch, we've been watching a couple of them dubbed, and yeah, it's not bad at all. So,
Nice. Nice.
um,
All right. Well, cool. The yeah, the amount of good TV shows that are out there that are kind of in on deck for me, it's crazy. There's so many that I really want to get into. I still want to get into Vikings, and I've tried it a few times, and I like it, but it's not amazing. And I've heard it gets
mhm.
better, but it never really quite hooked me. I always thought The Last Kingdom was a better show at getting me hooked right away. But anyway, yeah, there's so many out there that I want to give a whirl. We'll see. And this year is not going to be any better in terms of slowing down that volume. It's going to keep on rolling. But I did want to talk a little bit before we talk about some, assuming you've got some cyberpunk thoughts to share, and we'll get into some
Mhm.
of that with CD Projekt Red news as well. Just wanted to talk about a couple smaller games that I've played recently that you might find interesting. Derek's not here, so he can't scoff at me. Although if he hears this, he will scoff.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
but Game Pass for PC, Microsoft keeps adding a lot of titles there, and it's really cool. Some of them are really high quality as well. Some of them are just, the really popular smaller games. For example, if you're a Game Pass on PC gamer, you can play Among Us for free on there. It's coming to
Ah,
Xbox early
nice.
next year, they said, but on
It's
PC
on
it's
the
available
Switch now,
now.
by the way.
It's on the Switch now for $5. Yep, and it's all cross-platform type stuff.
Mhm.
You just put in the code and you can join, just like it did with PC and phone. It works everywhere that way. Um, so that's pretty cool that they did that. They also added, and I haven't tried this yet, but the Gears 5, it looks like DLC. Oh shoot, what's it called? Something with the Horde.
Yeah, I forget,
Uh,
but a couple people have been posting about it in the group. But
my fault. Everybody, I should have looked that up before I tried to talk about it. But I do want to try that one. That looks really cool, and I've heard good things about that experience there
is
too.
it story DLC or?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit. I don't think it's very much, but then there's some multiplayer stuff there too, from what I can tell.
Okay.
Derek played it, and I think he finished it. He'd be able to speak to it better. Maybe next week he can talk to us about that. But here's a couple that I have actually played that I can speak to. One's called Unto the End. It reminds me, the art style reminds me a lot of Ashen, if you guys played that game, where it's very kind of painting like. Also, instead of real detailed faces, it's more like a block, kind of blank face.
Mhm.
Um, and that's an art style I've seen in a lot of games in the last couple of years. But Unto the End kind of looks like that, but it's more zoomed out and it's side scrolling, and you control this kind of red-headed, red-bearded Viking-looking guy, maybe caveman type guy, I can't really tell. And there's no dialogue. It just starts right away where you're being sent off by your family on some kind of hunt, it looks like, but then things go horribly wrong and you tumble into this deep abyss where it's very dark and you now have to survive attacks from these little um, actually they're not little compared to you. They're these Yeti type monsters that are real evil, and but over time, as you progress through the different caverns and stuff, you discover that they are not just big monsters with sharp claws. They actually can wield weapons and build themselves armor, and they get tougher as well. It's an interesting game. It's a little bit of survival mixed with what I consider to be very tedious combat, which is why I probably won't play it a lot more. But it's an interesting combat system. You either block high or block low, attack
Mm.
high or attack low. You can roll, and the whole idea is basically it's almost like a timing thing. Watch how they're about to swing at you, learn their attacks, and then block the right way. And if you can block their onslaught of attacks, then you might get them worn out, and now you can unleash your attacks, things like that. So it's not very fast paced. It's a little more purposeful in the way the combat works. It's not going to be for everybody, but if you've got Game Pass, you might as well give it a shot. I think it's an interesting game. I don't think I'll keep playing it too much more, but I did want to try it because it looked cool. I don't know if you're into card games at all. Did you ever get into the deck building card games at all? Strategy games?
I mean, I know there's what's the one on for mobile that's based off of Warcraft?
Oh, that's Hearthstone.
Hearthstone. I know people were obsessed with that, or maybe still are obsessed with that.
Yeah.
I liked the one in The Witcher.
Following.
I liked that.
Yeah.
I just never played the Gwent. I never played the Gwent specific game, the one that they did kind of a spin-off. But I did like.
Well,
Gwent.
they actually made one. They made Gwent, but they also made one that's now on every console too, called Thronebreaker: The Witcher Tales.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that combat is Gwent. They just added some twists to it, but there's actually a story there where your character who's traveling around looting stuff, but all the combat is essentially a Gwent battle.
Yeah.
I recommend that if you were listening to this and liked Gwent, that's actually a pretty surprisingly good game. But Monster Train is out on PC, and it just came to Game Pass for PC as well. This one's really good. Like, again, I like deck building, card battling games. I just never seem to be able to stick with them. I'll play them for a while and I find them to be fun, and then I get distracted by something else. And by the time you turn around to go back to it, it's like, whoa, I have no idea what's good and it gets really challenging. It's like a turn-based strategy game as well. It's like, whoa, this is overwhelming.
It has its own rules and all the things that you have to learn, and then you leave for a while, and then it's like, I don't remember those rules. So,
but I like it. I mean, the setup of it is that basically there's heaven and hell, and you're on this monster train trying to get out of hell, basically, and that's why you're all these monsters and demons and stuff. And heaven has sent all these warriors and some of their own horrifying monsters to stop you, to destroy the pyre. There's this last little remnant of the pyre that is helping your train stay powered and stay moving forward. And so the way it works is every battle happens within a train car, and there's 3 levels. There's 3 like floors of this train car, and you start on floor 1. That's where the enemies enter, and you have a certain number of little embers, which are like your essentially energy points, and you use those to place cards based on how many embers they cost. And you can select which floor you want to put them on, what order you want them to go in. Some of them are just power-ups. Some of them are going to be actual units that have attack and defense. There's all kinds of bonuses. There's bosses that will show up that have special abilities as well. But the idea is don't let them get to the top floor and kill your ember. It's like this glowing gem at the top. And once they get up there, you better just hope that you've hurt them enough that your ember can kill them, because your ember can attack every turn as well.
Okay.
But if you haven't taken down enough of their health, they're probably going to take you out. And it's one of those roguelike style things where you start all over again, but you keep some upgrades and you keep some of your cards.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool. I think it's a really well-made game. The art style is really fun and creative, and a lot of the attacks are fun. It's just one of those things, just like every card game I've ever played. It's like, oh, what a cool concept. Even Hearthstone I thought was so fun. But then I quickly lost interest. I can't stay interested in those for too long. I just think they're very cool, very creative. Love the cards, love the design. I like the rules. And all right, cool, next game. And I move on to the next thing. So yeah. But Monster Train is great. I recommend it for folks who've got PC. It's really good. Last one I'll mention, I got to give a shout out to our buddy Dan Phillips, because he recommended that people try this one if you have Game Pass. It's called Call of the Sea, and I probably wouldn't have tried it. The cover of it shows this lady like in 1930s garb, looks like she's on some kind of adventure on an island, and she's holding a diary. I'm like, nope. Like, you see that cover, like, pass. But
sounds like it's Derek's type of game, though.
It is totally Derek's type of game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he recommended it and said that it is an adventure game, walking simulator type of a game. But he just said it's got a great story. It's very interesting. So I gave it a shot. I actually just finished it right before we started recording. It's really interesting. If you like walking simulators with some interesting puzzles, I actually thought the puzzles were surprisingly challenging, but not so much so that I got mad. It was more like, well, that was a creative way to make me go back and search through this tent of stuff again, and then I found the key that I was missing, to go back and solve the puzzle. So I thought it was cool, and then they incorporate some really neat, let's just call them magical type elements, like fantasy type elements that I wasn't expecting. I thought it was it's basically you're the wife of a guy who went on this expedition to try to find a cure for your disease. You have this disease, he wants to help cure it. He went on an expedition, he went missing, so now you're going to try to find him, and you're essentially following his expedition crew's clues. So like different camps they've set up and different notes and stuff that they've left behind, and trying to find your way to where they are. So
it sounds intriguing, Tim. I'm intrigued.
I did like it a lot. I thought it was very good.
Did you finish it?
I did. Just finished it today before I started recording. Nope. Okay. 3-4 hours total.
Oh, okay. That's a sweet spot for one of those type of games.
Yeah, I thought so. If it had been much longer than that, I probably would have been like, oh, okay, I'm just going to look up the ending to this thing,
So much walking.
I know. It really, and that is one problem with it too, is that they do pretty early on introduce to you, here's how to quote unquote sprint, but it is not fast. So that is frustrating when you have to go back and forth to try to solve different puzzles. You have to go back to look at this one spot to go back and now try to solve it. The walking is definitely too slow.
Speed walking.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, and going up and down ladders. There's one section where you had to keep going up and down the ladder to go look at the setup again, and then go back down to try to solve it, and then go look at it again. And going up and down the ladder, the animation was so slow. Anyway, but I do like it. And if you like those kind of games, if you liked What Remains of Edith Finch and The Vanishing of Ethan Carter and Observation, which our buddy Jeff recommended to us last year, and I did end up playing. I did end up liking that one. Actually reminds me kind of Observation, because you're stumbling upon a scenario where something already happened and you're trying to figure out what happened. And then you've got these kind of, I think paranormal might be the right word for it, but I'm not trying to say it's always alien, but there's elements that are not normal in our understanding of normal going on. And so, and then as you discover those things, there's a decision to make at the end, which is cool too.
I think that's kind of an important element with those games, because that's what makes it at least more interesting, or like if it has a good payoff at the end. Because what was that one where you're in, like, is a fire tower?
Oh, Firewatch.
Firewatch, thank you.
Yeah.
The whole game just had this like mystery to it, and it was just really cool vibes. And then like you get to the end, you're like, oh, all right, well, I just wasted a few hours of.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that. I didn't mind it, but I'm with you. Like it wasn't very rewarding.
Yeah.
The game ends up to be a lot more just about the relationship and that kind of stuff, and way less, if not at all, about some of the mystery stuff you thought you were going to solve. Although there is some of that. Anyway, I do like it. I recommend it. And that's it. Those are the ones that I've tried out. It's funny too that my kids are all off school and I'm off work, so we're all at home. And there's a game that was free, really, really temporarily on the Switch. It's those tycoon games, not where you're building anything, but it's where you're preparing meals for stuff for people really quickly, and have to the breakfast bar tycoon, burger tycoon, pizza tycoon. They look like very garbage mobile games. Like, who cares about these? But they were free, so we grabbed it. I actually found myself getting ridiculously hooked on this little fast-paced kind of puzzle game. As orders come in, you got to send the orders out. So that was kind of fun to play with the kids, stuff like that. But
I mean,
other than that,
way better. But
dude, Overcooked is a blast, but it is so stressful and almost always ends in fights. And then I tried playing it solo, and it's just impossible to play solo. So
yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, the only other thing I've been playing outside of AC Odyssey a little bit, Immortals a little bit, still trying to progress in those two games, and I still really like those two games. Game of the Year time, I'll talk about why I think those games are both really, really, really great, but they're not as good as they could have been. But they're really great. I love both those games. They both have enough flaws and enough issues that I can already tell you, a little spoiler alert, they're probably not going to end up as my favorite game of the year, but they're going to be up there. I like both of them a lot.
Spoiler alert, Tim. I literally anyone could bet like what mine is, like just literally anyone. Every
I'm
single
gonna
person.
go with Persona 5 Royal. All right,
Yes.
so I do want to talk a little bit about Cyberpunk, although I unfortunately don't have a ton to say yet again. I played it some.
Oh, okay. I've
There's
been
two
playing a lot,
things.
Tim.
Okay, good. I do want to hear your thoughts, your updated impressions of it. There's two quick things for me, and I'll throw it to you. Um, this is a game that's impossible to play when there's kids around. It's
Oh
just,
yeah, no, absolutely.
it's just too crazy, too
Yeah.
violent, too everything.
Hmm.
Um, Also, not really getting into it. Here's my big problem, is I don't usually start playing it until at least the time, if not after the time that I should be sleeping. So I'm already wiped out. I'm very
Yeah.
tired. And
Hmm.
I try to start this game and there's tons of dialogue, tons of options. I'm looting all this stuff and I'm like, I don't even know what to do with most of this. I'm not sure how
Yeah.
to equip the right things and upgrade things and what skills should I go after. So there's so much to digest and I'm already pretty wiped out. And I'm like, oh, I want to get into this because I'm playing on PC. It looks great,
Hmm.
runs great. In my personal experience this year, it's one of the best looking games of the year. I love the way it looks. I don't know what Derek was talking about when he said it looks fine. I think it looks amazing. With ray tracing on, I actually see a huge difference. I turned it on and off, and I think the ray tracing looks phenomenal. So
Yeah.
all that to say, by the time I think I'm mainly maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours of progress in it.
Okay.
Not very deep at all. And so, and
No,
I understand that this game uh,
that's what
can
she said.
be as short. Oh crap. Uh, that I understand this game can be as short as what, like 20, 25 hours if you just mainline it.
Okay.
Some folks can finish it,
I haven't
but
even. Yeah.
I think if you expand and actually experience it the way you're supposed to, it can be two, three times that. So
Yeah.
the other thing I'll mention, and this is probably just personal preference, I've never loved first person RPGs. The one
Hmm.
exception has been Borderlands, and that's mostly still because it's a great shooter, in addition to
Hmm.
having a ton of RPG elements to it. The
Sure.
the shooting just feels fantastic in Borderlands. This shooting feels fine, and I'm sure if I get the right gun, it'll be good. But I've never liked the Fallout games. That's one of the things that kept me from really enjoying the early Mass Effect experience was that whole like pause time and assign things, but it's also a shooter, but not really. I struggled to really get into those as much
Yeah.
just because that just wasn't my thing. So, um, but anyway, I'll throw it to you, give your impressions. I do think I will get into this because I just love the developer so much, despite how evil everyone wants us to believe that they are. And I
Well.
and I also think that there's gonna be something, a story hook, some kind of gameplay moment that I kind of something clicks that all of a
Mhm.
sudden I think I'll get hooked. But right now, so far, hasn't happened yet. Maybe once I give it more time when I'm not falling asleep.
Yeah. Um. I'm definitely much further. I'm at about I think last when I checked, 30 hours.
Oh dang. Okay.
So I've been playing quite a bit. So it's actually funny that you mentioned Fallout. So like the Elder Scrolls games, Fallout.
Hmm.
I'm pretty much I'm enjoying it because it's giving me the sensation of those games where it's similar how like kind of how you mentioned there's stuff strewed about and you're picking things up and you're like, oh, I feel
Yeah.
like I need to pick this up, I need to pick that up, I need to pick the that's what I'm doing because I'm picking all that crap up and then I'm just selling it so I can like rack in some money and then I can
Hmm.
go and try to find
Or
dry
eddies, as they call it, right?
yeah, eddies. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, but they're euro dollars. Like,
Right.
apparently the regular dollar doesn't exist anymore. So
Well, also
thank,
people just call those euros, but whatever.
yeah,
Continue.
whatever. Well, I mean, in this future, apparently, like the dollar and the euro merged. I'm guessing, or something happened.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
now
know.
they're eddies. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But yeah, the eddies. So I can go and find some shops. I like to drive around to the shops and then be like, oh, what is this shop selling? Or with the
Hmm.
clothes, even though you don't really see your character unless you're driving on a motorcycle, and then you can see the
Okay.
clothes, which is my whole it kind of like what how I've mentioned with Destiny. It's like, oh cool, I can have all this cool armor, but I can't actually see it unless I'm doing this very specific thing like on a vehicle or whatever, so it's kind of pointless.
The thing I like about Destiny, though, is every time you're back at the hub world, it's back to third person and you can see
Yes.
yourself and everyone else again. So I
Yes.
like that because it reminds you that you've got this cool armor or you look a certain way. It's funny that with my very short time with Cyberpunk so far, I forgot what I looked like until I go to the inventory pause screen or whatever to
Right.
like, oh yeah, I forgot that I put that shirt on. Wow, I look stupid. I got to find a new shirt. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, I forget what my character looks like a lot of
Or
times.
you can go to a mirror and do all sorts of emotes. You can stare at yourself, you can smile at yourself, you can
Oh, really?
glare at yourself. Yeah, it'll give you
Hmm.
like a list. It says like smile, glare, frown, a couple other ones. So, and your character will just stare, which is funny. Um, but yeah, it's just kind of giving me those vibes of like, so this game is not this game is not kind of what I think they seemed like they were trying to advertise, like, or maybe we just all made the assumption because Witcher 3 was just such like a spectacle. Witcher 3 was like a special game that maybe we thought this was going to be another like their, Cyberpunk. CD Projekt Red is pushing the industry forward type of a game,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
don't think it is that at all.
Okay.
Um, I think maybe visually some stuff they're doing, and I'm not playing on PC, so I cannot speak to any of that at all. What they're doing on PC, and that clearly being the superior version, maybe that is pushing some stuff forward. I'm playing on PlayStation 5, so it's
And it's the
the
PS4 version.
right, because they
Right.
haven't actually released like the official update to kind of
Right.
have it be like this is the PS5 version versus the base console PS4 and Xbox One version.
Yep.
Um, but it still loads a bit faster, from what I'm hearing, because obviously I have no comparison. I didn't pop it into my PS4. I just straight up played it on my PS5. It definitely
Hmm.
loads faster. I'm hearing it definitely looks a little bit better. Um, I'm not hitting that many bugs, to be honest, and that's another thing because this is like a case by case game with individuals because some people they'll get 5 bugs in one play session. I've gotten like 5 or 6 bugs in the entire 30 hours that I've played.
Well, and you and I
So
talked about this before too, where it's like there's so many variables in open world
yes,
experiences like this
yeah,
that's why I think QA processes are so tough. And I
hmm,
empathize completely with folks who are testing this and trying to get all the bugs out, is because you have to try to anticipate every possible path or combination that every player might do in
yeah,
the order they might do it in. And if you don't do it in that exact order, you might miss something that they're going to see. I'm not noticing bugs, but I have noticed as I'm wandering around the city just some, I guess this is a bug. I don't know, but if something happens in front of you and you turn away and come back, it's almost like everything reloads, and it could be even be like new NPCs are now
hmm,
there, or like car AI seems to be really stupid sometimes if they
yeah.
get stuck on things in the
Dude,
street.
there's
So
some hilarious. Clayton actually posted one, and he captioned like looking for your vehicle, no problem, or something like that, and he summoned his car, and it literally was like a matchbox car just in the air catapulting like flipping super fast like this like towards him like in the
I
sky,
love
like
it.
yeah,
Love
like,
it.
and that stuff's actually hilarious, right? Like some
Yeah.
people are like, oh, all these bugs, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but like I kind of want that to happen to
Dude, I
me.
think that's so funny. Stuff like that happened in The Witcher. Stuff like that happens, of course, in like all Bethesda games and really
Yeah.
all open world games. You'll have that weird, wacky. I remember GTA. All my GTA experiences had some weird things where I was like, "Is that a tank in the building right there?" So like, all kinds of weird things can pop in, can load
Mhm.
in weird spots. I mean, it just happened with me with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I just downloaded the update. They have this whole like Yule Festival
Okay.
update they just put out,
I haven't checked that
and,
out yet.
and so if you um, go back to your camp, they'll it's all snowing now, and they've got it all decorated. And there's a bunch of little mini games slash kind of side quests, but not really.
Mm.
Little interactions you can now have that are all around celebrating the season or whatever. It was so buggy, and so
Okay.
like I did this target mini game where it's very straightforward. You gotta shoot arrows at the targets in a certain amount of time. And then when it's over, I'm walking around, I'm noticing like there's an arrow stuck to my character's hands between two of his
Yeah,
fingers, and
that's happened to me.
it's just stuck there. And I
Yeah.
tried fast traveling. I had to like exit and then reload the
Mhm.
save to get that to go away. Because he was even in cutscenes, he would like hold his hand
Yeah.
up to his face, and the arrow is just right
Yeah.
there. It's just so stupid.
But that's
And then also,
hilarious.
I noticed in the background these characters that I think the game was mapping the characters to walk on steps that are now gone because of where the Yule festival
Okay.
is. And
Yeah.
so they're walking up steps and kind of standing on a platform that doesn't exist,
Yeah.
you know? So little things like that. Again, it happens in every open world game. And
Yeah.
I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. It's because the expectations for Cyberpunk were so high.
Mhm.
But we I do the same thing. I'll give games a pass if I'm enjoying them enough. I'll kind of chuckle about it, reload if I need to. Otherwise, I'll just move on and ignore it.
Yeah.
But some folks are taking them really seriously. So I don't consider those bugs so much as just this is just what happens in the code when there's too many things at play. and they didn't catch it, and it's fine.
So
Uh,
I think there's so my thought is, and I have it's a very specific thing, but I just want to like I am having fun with the game. I do like the missions when I'm on the mission, and so the sneaking is not great. But I do try to basically approach a lot of missions with sneaking. And you do have like the hacking abilities, which I forget what the actual name of the item is, but there's basically the item that you can find new ones, which then gives you more slots that gives you more
yep.
abilities to do hacking.
Yep.
So I
There's like a
found,
little hack menu that comes up, and you can pick what
yeah,
thing to execute. Yeah.
exactly. And you get like new chips or whatever, which then has more slots to give you more hacking abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I got one that gave me like a decent amount more. I forget how many I have, but basically I'll try to kind of sneak in, and I'll shut off cameras. I love to do the one where it's like basically their optics, like restart optics or whatever. So basically they go blind for like a certain amount of seconds.
Yep.
So
Yep.
like that's kind of fun because then like they're kind of like, oh, what's going on? Like and they literally
Yep.
can't see. So then I'll sneak up behind them and grab them. But the second like crap hits the fan, I'm like, all right, well, just bust out my gun. I start shooting. So
Do you
I
treat them
think
like a shooter? You just aim and fire, or are you trying to be more strategic once the battle's underway? Like, how are you handling those battles?
I always try to like take cover if I can. But if I find myself like kind of actually being surrounded, like I'm like, oh shoot, I actually didn't notice these two guys coming up behind me. I'll actually just bust out my katana and just start slicing. So
Nice. Yeah, I don't
um,
have a melee weapon like that yet.
okay,
Um,
the katana is
but
really fun, Tim.
I do, yeah, I wonder if once I get some of the melee stuff, if I'll like it even more. But I do need a piece of advice when I'm
Mhm.
in the middle of a firefight, and all of a sudden it's giving me a plenty of warning, and there's a little bar filling up because I'm getting hacked or attacked or something.
Yeah, yeah,
They're trying to overheat my circuits
yes,
or something.
yep, yep.
Um, what? And then it told me to hit LB to like focus on them. I guess I could attack them to interrupt it or
Hmm.
something, but I'm never able to do that. Like either I can't see them, they're behind cover. Is
Right.
there something I'm supposed to do there? Do I need to unlock a skill to stop that? Because that's getting very frustrating. Because they hit me with it every time, and then I just start getting my health just starts getting depleted.
Well, so for me, because I'm the type of person who's neurotic and likes to pick up a lot of things, I've picked up a lot of the health items. So like in the beginning when I was getting hit with that, yeah, like I was noticing, oh, this is happening a lot. Like what's going on? Then I realized, yeah, there's clearly a hacker who's hanging out in the back. Like when there's a group of dudes and you approach an area,
Yes.
they're usually like towards the back, like they're trying to kind of hide behind cover, and they're hacking you, and they're trying to like overheat you or whatever it is that they're doing.
Hmm.
So basically, I'll try to just circle around and shoot them. Or there is a hacking ability where you can shut off their hacking for a certain amount of time.
Oh, okay.
Um, or I think even I could be wrong, but I think maybe if you put some distance between you and the hacker,
Okay. Okay.
um, but I don't know if that's
I was
actually.
wondering if maybe because if you hold LB or L1, depending on what you're playing, what controller
Mhm.
you're using, um, then if you're close enough, I'm assuming I could also like somehow do a counter hack or attack them somehow to interrupt it. But so far, I haven't been able to. I think I've been a little frustrated because I feel like they can start that hack no matter where I am. If I'm behind cover, it doesn't matter where I am. They can start attacking me with that, and I
Yeah.
can't see them. So I'm assuming with some upgrades, in addition to me
Hmm.
understanding the game a little better and getting into a better line of sight,
Yeah.
I'll be able to take care of some of that. I do have a ton of healing items because I have been collecting just about everything.
Yeah.
So pretty much every time I see that happen, I don't worry about it. I just keep
Yeah.
shooting, and when it starts hurting me, I just heal
Yeah.
as needed.
The second, honestly, the second you see that even popping up, like even if the meter hasn't filled up yet, well, no, because your health might be full, so I guess
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense. But like the
As soon as
second
it
it starts
starts
to hit
hurting
you,
me.
yeah,
Hmm.
just pop one of the healing items. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, as you get further in the game, yeah, you get some more hacking abilities. That's not so much an issue. Yeah,
I'm really digging
melee,
the dialogue too, by the way. I should mention
yeah,
this. The characters and the dialogue, not just, I mean, your buddy Jackie, I think is a
Jackie,
really fun character. I like the way
yeah,
he's portrayed and written. Um, but a lot of the other side characters, whether it's on a phone call or just someone you randomly talk to, I think it's overall, and this is what happened in Witcher 3 as well, every character seems to have more depth than I expected, and they're very
hmm
well. very well voice acted for sure.
Yeah.
And of course, I think the visuals here are great. With The Witcher 3, as much as I love that game and always will, they reused tons of textures and character models. And so I felt like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times I'm talking to the same, 5 or 6 either male or female versions of characters.
Mm-hmm.
And this completely, everyone looks totally different. Like that early mission where we go into that place against the oh, I forget the name of the gang, but they're all real cybered up and they all have all kinds of like
Yeah.
machinery all over them.
Yeah.
And the guy Royce, the main dude Royce, has like the top half of his face is missing,
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
like as he gets in your face, and it was, I mean, the visuals were just popping, like
Yeah.
the way the
The
light was
detail.
reflecting, and it
Yeah.
when he was right up in your face, I was just like, dude, this is so stylistic, and it
Yeah.
really made me think of like this is real '80s cyberpunk movie, but a video game. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
really impressed by all that stuff. But then once the game gave you control and it was time to fight, I was like, oh, I'm not loving the shooting right out of the gate. I'm not
Yeah.
loving it yet.
It you might have to maybe I don't know. I had to like tweak the controls to be honest, because
Oh,
like
okay.
so it does. I don't know if you notice. Maybe like with the mouse it's different, but like when I'm playing with the controller, there's almost sort of like a I don't know if like a lag or like a cushion. Like when I'm pushing in a direction, it like doesn't fully go in that direction right away. It's like kind
Yeah.
of slow for a second and then goes.
Yeah.
And that was throwing me off. I've gotten used to it, but like you can also actually go into the control into the settings and tweak the controls. Like there's actually even then like an additional tab for advanced controls, and you can tweak all these little like very specific things.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I think once I kind of played around with it and tweaked it, um, then I got a bit more used to it. I try to like circle around to different weapons because I like kind of just having that variety.
Mm-hmm.
Shotguns are really nice.
Okay. All right.
um,
Yeah, all I've got so far is I've got a couple of pistols. I've got a really cool tech pistol
mhm.
that I like a lot. And then I've got a revolver that's cool. And then just a pretty standard machine gun. So those are the only weapons I've used so far. It's pretty basic.
Once you get to I want to say between 5 to 10 hours and like this like basically so there's a section you get to where like this like pretty much most of the areas open up because I guess in the beginning there's almost like it's like there's like a quarantine, which is funny because in real life we're dealing with that. So you can't go past a certain bridge.
Right.
There's like this it's like a story thing that's not allowing you to go past a certain part. But once you get past that and you can pretty much go anywhere, tidbit Tim, there's a gun. It's called Skippy. I don't know if you've
I
seen
keep hearing,
anybody.
I've heard about Skippy. Yeah, it talks to
Yes.
you, right?
Yeah, it's so there's like an introduction with the gun because basically there's like this deceased guy that you find in an alley, and you pick up the gun, and yeah, it basically has like a built-in AI,
Yeah.
and it's like just being it's like it base and then there's like almost like this goofy cartoony little like bullet that come like projects out of it and is talking to you and asking you things. It's actually pretty funny. But it basically asks you there's two types of modes that it does. And I actually screwed up because I didn't realize this until then. I watched another video and they're like, oh, it actually switches once you kill 50 people, which I don't even know if that's actually true, but if it is, I unfortunately didn't pick the right option. But it
Whoops.
basically he's going to ask you two options if you want. So the gun will basically always there's like an aiming box, and if you aim towards a person, it's either always going to shoot them right in the head, or it's always going to shoot them right in the legs or knees. I forget
Okay.
specifically. So whichever option you choose, supposedly after 50 kills, then it switches.
What?
So I chose head, and I supposedly, if it's true, it's gonna switch to then shooting them in the legs or knees once I hit that 50 mark. So
Skippy, you sneaky little.
because apparently the gun's just a dirtbag, so like it just does that on purpose because for giggles, for
That
LOLs.
that your description of that really reminds me of like a Borderlands style experience.
Yeah,
And I understand that this game is way different in so many ways, but I'm glad they're taking some of the personality that I love from a game like Borderlands and they're injecting it here. I think that's cool. I like that.
yeah, yeah. That particular moment's pretty fun. Yeah, there's just really outrageous moments in the games. Just certain characters, they're very colorful, very lively, very specific, detailed personalities. I do like Jackie. And then once you kind of get to the second chapter, and then you meet another important character, that whole arc is really cool. That's
Hmm.
when things really start to get more in depth. Like once that you get more intertwined into the big overarching like this major thing that's occurring.
Okay.
involving that last mission of like chapter 1, if that's what you want to call it.
Yep.
Um, some big thing happens there, and you see it, and then when you're trying to escape, things happen, and
Okay.
you see, I can't say spoiler wise, but it
Do
is
you do
actually
you feel
really
like it's
interesting.
got a pretty good through line story? Because I've heard that the through line story is n not that it's not good, but it's actually not very clear. That that's actually like this collection of all these side missions that you do that makes the story come
Yeah.
together.
Well, so there's so many. There's like I got to a point where I met that towards the beginning of chapter 2. There was this individual that saved me from this situation. He was trying to bring me to what is a Ripper doc, I think they call it. So they're basically
Okay. Yeah.
doctors, but then they're also able to work on all the kind of machinery inside your body because
Right.
everybody in this world's like half machine.
Like that Victor guy right at the beginning, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So once you kind of in the beginning of chapter 2, you get to a certain part where you find out some things, um, and you go and speak to him again because he wants to basically find a couple of people to fix this situation that happened at the end of chapter 1. I'm trying to be as vague as I can, but
Yeah.
still being
No.
descriptive.
Yeah.
But basically, he wants, like, there's this one person he wants to find. So there's two people that he wants to find, and but it's all connected to that one mission. But
Okay.
like each different path that you're going down, you're looking for these two different people. There's completely just different things that you're doing that aren't directly connected, but are connected to that mission where you're meeting him in the cafe.
Okay.
Um, but then yeah, there's like side missions too, of course, and then there's just like little random things, like you'll be driving by and there's like a crime happening, so you can kind of like pull off to the side, like somebody's getting like mugged or something, so you can help that person. So like there's like
I like to
all,
think that when that happens, you pause it and put on your Spider-Man mask to go stop the crime at that point.
I mean, it's a little difficult to see. I haven't tried it, but that would be difficult to see because the aiming's not super great sometimes. So
Mm.
because again,
I just know
I
you
mean,
like to be the hero, so you know.
yes, of course. I mean, I don't know if there is a hero in this game, Tim. It's a lot of morally gray, you know.
Yep.
This world is very gray. There's a lot of gray area. Um,
That's very clear from the jump. It's
yeah.
very clear.
Um,
Yep.
but yeah, I mean, I definitely am enjoying it, and
Can I
it's
just complain about the map for a second? So I brought up the map when you're first kind of set loose to roam a little bit. And I understand that every map's going to have its own icons and its own legend that you have to kind of learn what each icon means. But I am finding this map really obtuse compared to other open world games for whatever reason. So I think I still need to just get adjusted to it. But I really prefer the way I loved the Witcher 3 map. I thought that was really well executed and easy to navigate, easy to understand. The same thing with most Assassin's Creed games. I know they're very littered with dots everywhere, but still can generally understand what's what. This map is just overwhelmingly um, populated with all kinds of stuff that doesn't make a ton of sense. And I didn't find the legend to be very kind of intuitive, is the word
Was
I'm
it a
looking
specific thing that you
for.
were trying to find and you couldn't find it,
Yeah,
or
even just trying to get to like my next mission point, little things like that, I just found to be like, oh, this is not the best setup for the map. Now, after using it 3, 4 times, I started to kind of get the lay of the land a little bit more. But I just didn't love it. I just don't like
yeah?
the map design
I
personally.
basically what I do is I zoom in because like it almost like because there'll be like this area where all these icons are kind of clustered together.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
when you're zoomed out, it's actually hard to sort of differentiate, or it'll actually have like if there's multiple shops near each other, when you're zoomed out, it'll actually have like the shop icon, but then like a number next to it
Oh, okay.
because it's like there's so many things going on in that
Those
one
are kind of
spot.
stacked. Yeah.
Yeah. So like when you actually zoom in, then it like separates
Well, that's
and
nice. That's
you can
good.
see specifically a bit more. Yeah, it's not super intuitive with kind of being like, here's the main mission. But what I usually do is I try to look for yellow icons. So a lot of the yellow icons are like more specific side quests, not the ones where it's just the generic like there's a crime happening, but like something a little more
Yeah, there's someone to
specific.
talk to and they're going to sign something to you. Yeah.
Yeah, something a little
Yeah.
more specific and unique. Um,
But
but
I mean,
like
the bottom line is you've played it a lot longer than me. Are you finding that you're able to use the map in the way that you want to? You got no problems with it. I
yeah,
just need to get used to it.
that's honestly the main thing. So the main thing that I'm doing, and that's kind of what makes it not seem super great as far as like an open world game where it's like I'm gonna look in that direction and I'm just gonna do a bunch of stuff. Like I'm bringing up the map, I'm clicking on something, and then I go to it. If I find anything interesting on the way, I'll stop and do it.
Hmm.
But I am specifically picking spots and like kind of going there
That's probably
a
smart.
lot. Yeah.
That might be
That
one of the reasons why you're not hitting as many glitches as other people who are just letting themselves free roam and do all
yeah.
kinds of crazy stuff, because you're a little more, sounds like you're more purposeful in where
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
headed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which I mean, like in the Assassin's Creed, Valhalla, I was trying to kind of be a little bit more like, oh, let me go off in that direction because it's less it's less claustrophobic.
It is.
It's like
Yeah.
Night City is just like it's actually kind of overwhelming to be honest
It
because
is.
like you
Yeah.
pop into the game and like you look up and like there's just all these skyscrapers. You're like, oh, this is actually like a legit city. Like
Yeah.
just like a real city, some people can be overwhelmed with that, you know?
Yeah. It can overwhelm a simple country folk. All
Yeah.
right.
Exactly. So, if you have a map or GPS, it's easier to navigate.
Makes sense. Makes
um,
sense.
but yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to kind of be more, maybe kind of picking locations and going there specifically, trying to kind of give yourself a bit more purpose.
Yeah.
But then, like, oh, on the way there, if I come into contact with anything, maybe I'll stop and do that. That might be a better approach, unless you
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
just kind of willy nilly just do whatever. But
No, I like that. I like the idea of at least until I'm more accustomed to where things are, how the map totally works. Again, a lot of that is just getting acclimated and spending more time in
yeah,
any of these types of games. I could have said the same thing about any open world map or setup or legend, but I admitted this at the beginning. I haven't played it enough to really
mhm,
decide, is the combat just, is it not my thing, or am I just not used to it yet? Is the map
yeah,
just not well designed, or am I just not used to it yet? And I think most of those things are, I'm just not used to them yet, and I haven't been able to be like really focused in playing it, because again, by the time I fire it up, I'm usually pretty wiped out for the
yeah,
day. So when you're already approaching it pretty sleepy, and that's not going to help you play it
yeah.
very well.
To be fair, it's definitely not as refined as like say a Destiny, um, or maybe even a Borderlands. Because to me, Borderlands is actually more of a shooter, but like with heavy RPG
I
elements.
agree with that. Yeah,
This game might be a little more like RPG shooter, like the
yeah.
the ratio, it might
Yeah.
be a little more like closer to one another, like 60-40. But
See, I
um,
like a good RPG shooter. Like I really enjoyed both Division games. I played through the main
mhm,
storylines of both those games and finished them. I love those games. So I do think there's a place for me here to enjoy what they have to offer. And I'm really loving the setting and the characters and dialogue, and I feel like the story is going to be cool. I can't wait to meet Keanu. I've had a little bit
mhm.
of his role spoiled a little bit. That's okay. I'm still very excited
Oh, okay.
to engage with him and to see how that story plays out. I'm waiting for the combat to click, and I think maybe another couple hours we'll probably do the trick on that one. But any other thoughts on this one before we move on to some
Yeah.
headlines?
So I wanted to circle it back around to it and kind of maybe be the last point. Maybe it's unfortunately the negative point, but
Okay.
there's some negativity going on with this game, right? So
What?
so as far as the bugs go, so I mentioned that I'm not hitting a lot of bugs myself,
Right.
but a lot of people are. And I
Yep.
think the issue here, Tim, is apparently CG Project Red did not divulge what the base model PS4 and Xbox One, what the versions of Cyberpunk 2077 was going to be on those versions. They did not show apparently anybody. Reviewers did not get copies of those
They did not.
prior to the game releasing.
Right. They actually
So
weren't even allowed to use their own footage, even on their
yeah,
PC versions for the reviews. Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
So I think the issue here is leading up to the game's release for anybody that just was blindly unaware or just made an assumption that what they were seeing was going to be the game that they're playing regardless of what system they're on. I mean, I think maybe when you've played video games long enough, you kind of assume like, oh, that's probably the PC version. When they do it like
Yep.
an E3 presentation, it's like, oh, that's probably definitely like the PC version. I mean, I think at this point, like with like that Watch Dogs situation, that first Watch Dogs, we should all have learned by now, like, don't just blindly believe that that's going to be what you end up playing. But
That's
but yeah,
fair. Yeah.
they didn't really divulge any of that. You know, there was nothing
Yeah.
advertised, there was nothing expressed. They didn't really show anything, but they just sold the game. And then they're kind of like, when people started finding out, and it's like, oh, like this is not even just visually a mess, but it's technically a mess also. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, sorry. It's like it seems like the execs there are really dropping the ball a lot, and it's like then just the whole company is being punished, right? Because then it's like
It does have that vibe.
everybody's just mad, and they're just yelling at whoever they can that works at that company.
Yeah,
So
it's true. Yeah, that is a bummer that that happened. You know, it makes me think of when a company is putting out a game across all platforms, including, let's say, the Switch, which
mhm.
is, and this is coming from someone who loves the Switch. I'll always be a big fan of what Nintendo does as long as they keep doing something like the Switch. I love it.
Mhm.
But when Immortals, for example, comes out on all platforms, I'm so glad that they were willing to show here's how it looks on each platform. So I
Yeah.
could see, I actually did the demo on PC and I could see like this is how good it's going to look here. Also, here's some footage of it running on the Switch, and they allowed some different content creators to do some comparisons between the two, and you can make a decision. You know, is the portability, is this console of choice worth the downgrades in visuals or performance? And in some cases, that's going to be yes. In some cases, it's no. I wish CD Projekt Red had just been really transparent about that, saying, you know, the
Mhm.
way this game has grown over the years, it's really going to be tough for it to run at a very good performance or visual fidelity on an old platform. We're still going to make it available to you, but just be aware it's going to have some issues and we're going to be working on it, or we have to delay the release on those consoles because it's just not
Right.
playable yet. Like some approach like that would have been, so even if they didn't want to show it, they could have just said it's either not ready or it is a lesser version of the game, but we still want to make it available to you as we promised originally. Like some kind of communication. Now, I
Yeah.
understand from a marketing standpoint, you're never going to admit that your product is lesser than. So I totally get that. But in this day and age, if people had had a heads up and it was less of a surprise, which made everyone so upset, how they were all so surprised at this
Mhm.
game not being the next Witcher experience. It wasn't the perfect Witcher game that's now had, oh, I don't know, 100 updates over the 5 years that it's been out. But
Exactly.
they all wanted it to be at that level right away. And it's not, especially on the older consoles, it's not there yet. But even on PC and even on the newer consoles, when those versions roll out, there's going to be some hiccups and we're going to have to let them fix them over time. So all that to say, I feel like one of two paths would have suited them a lot better. One, we're going to keep it coming out on the platforms we talked about, but here's a heads up on the issues. Something like that.
Mhm.
Or at some point, with all these delays that have happened, let everyone know that the struggle we're having is maintaining the promise of what this game was always meant to be and releasing it on older gen consoles. It's just
Yeah.
not going to work. So we're going to keep working on those and hopefully come out with a version of those later, but we're going to launch this game just on next gen consoles and PC. I think that would have made some people upset for sure. That's, I think we've talked about this before, like 100 million folks on the PS4 that you now don't have
Mhm.
access to.
Yeah.
Listen, I understand that, but that would have been a much better PR and perception move because you're being honest about the limitations of what you've created have. And I don't think they were honest about that, at least not
No.
upfront about it. Maybe internally they knew and they just weren't talking about it. But I felt like the big problem that they have right now is that they weren't upfront with their customers about what they were buying. Everyone thought they were getting what they saw, and that was the high-end PC version, but
Yeah.
they weren't getting that. They weren't, and that's just reality. That's a bummer. That really is a bummer.
It is. Like yeah, a lot of people are legitimately upset. Um,
Yep.
and I know if I know if Derek was here, he'd be like, oh, like, oh, people want to get upset about things and yell at the company, but like he would just say some nonsense where it's somehow the person's fault, even though they were lied to. But because that's
I would
Derek.
say it would be that person's fault if CD Projekt Red had come out and said, "Here's going to be the difference between last gen and current gen, or
Yeah.
the new generation of consoles and PC. We still want to make it available to you, but here's the hits that the game's going to take." Again, it's one of those things where all you have to do is show us the side by side, or at least
Yeah.
talk about it. Talk about how the real place to play it's on Series X, PS5, and PC, and here's why. And then at least if you're getting it on PS4 and Xbox One, it's like, hey, I'm stuck with this because I can't find a new console yet. Totally understandable. Or I can't afford a PC. Totally understandable. And CD Projekt Red told me this is a lesser version of the game, but at least I can still play it. I'm gonna go ahead and get it. There's
Yeah.
something about knowing what you're getting into, and this being such a surprise drop off of performance and visuals. I think people have a right to be upset. I totally get it. I
Yeah.
think that the degree to which some people get upset is crazy, but I think that about most entertainment things. Like I
Yeah.
was just interacting with someone who was talking on Star Wars, and everyone's getting all mad about whenever someone says I enjoyed all the Star Wars movies and I loved Rise of Skywalker, quote unquote Star Wars fans freak out because they hated the new trilogy and how dare you like it. And so people take it so seriously.
Mm.
And I like having an opinion. We like to debate on here, but also when it comes down to it, it is entertainment. It is a video game, in that case, it is movies. And I don't know. I feel like it's okay to be upset and disappointed, but I don't think it's worth, and I don't think anything is worth threatening physical harm to
No,
a
of
company, or
course.
even deciding to boycott them forever and ever. I think it's more of a thing where you might say, "Hey, I'd like my money back because this product is not what I thought I was getting." I think that's a fair request. I really do, and we'll talk about the refund thing in a little bit. But I don't know. I maybe I'm just cutting these quote unquote big companies too much slack. Maybe I'm giving them too much grace here. Like for Microsoft deciding to reboot Halo Infinite is another example. Like it's not up to snuff. It surprised people with how it didn't hit the bar that we all thought they were going to hit. Derek and I
Yeah.
both shared our thoughts on it's not that bad, but if we were being honest, it's like, yeah, but it's not that great either. And so surprising your fans with that and surprising PS4 and Xbox One players with a lesser version of this game, I think was a bad move. You shouldn't have surprised us. You should have told them, should have been very upfront about it.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's what, like with Halo, they were, right? They showed us the game. They seemed excited about it, but maybe they was like, maybe in the back of their head they're like, well, let's see how people are going to react to this because we know that this probably could use a bit more,
there had to be one guy at the
sprucing
office
up.
who was like, I told you.
Yeah. Steve, listen, quiet down, all right? We know,
His
but
name was
like,
Craig. His name was
yeah,
totally
Craig,
Craig.
Craig. But like they said, hey, you know what? A lot of you said this game doesn't look as great as it should. So we heard you. It could use some more work. We'll
Yep.
work on it, but now you're not going to get it for a bunch more months. Um, I honestly think so. I think ideally what they should have done if they still wanted to hit the December 10th date is they should have stopped. They should have stopped work on the PS4, Xbox One versions like months ago, and they should have then started working on sort of that update, that PS5 update, or some I don't know,
Yes.
somehow figure out like getting the enough the whatever update they're going to be releasing. So then there's the PS5 and Xbox Series X version, which still isn't
Yep.
going to be quite the PC version, but like at least it'll be distinctive between PS5 versus
Yep.
PS4. They should have started work on that, so we would have that now, and then the PS5, Xbox Series X versions, which would have a little bit more parity with the PC version, would be out. And unfortunately, everybody else would have to wait a few more months for those baseline ones because those
Yep.
just would need the time to kind of, get them stable because they're just not stable.
What's crazy about all this is that it's been a while since there's been a PC version that is so superior to the console versions that it's not even close. Like I think most games that come out across all platforms, the PC version everyone knows, like if you've got the hardware, it'll look a little cleaner. You can probably have some ray tracing technology activated and maybe your frames per second are going to be higher. But
Hmm.
in general, your experience is still going to be fine, if not excellent on consoles. So like Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, or Death Stranding that recently came out. Yeah, it's going to look a little better on a super high-end computer, but if you got it on PS4 Pro, by all accounts, it still looks and plays great. So
Hmm.
I feel like it's just been a while. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like it's been a while since PC has been this far above and beyond the
Yeah.
console version of a game.
I mean, visually, it definitely is and has been, I think, for a while. Yeah, there are definitely games that are like, oh, that looks insane. And just the consoles cannot do, even the PS5 and Xbox Series X can't do what the PC is doing.
Well, yeah, I
But
think that's the case, but this almost looks like, some of the screenshots I've seen, whether they're real or not, I don't know, but some of
yeah,
them look like different games,
I
you
know.
know?
Yeah, the
Um,
PS4 version and the Xbox One versions are definitely, yeah, it's quite different for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
they look like almost different games. Some of the levels of detail that are there, and some of the even just like the face design of that character. I'm like, that's not the same character. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, whatever. I also realize that some of that stuff is doctored up online to look like a funny thing and become a meme and all that stuff. So I don't know what I've seen that's real and what's not, but um, to me, it's more than just better textures and more frames per second and better lighting. It seems like the overall game experience is just improved on on one platform compared to the others, and that to me is a bigger deal.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is. I am hoping that over this next week, I have off work this week. I'll get a chance some of these evenings to really start getting into it. Hopefully, next time we talk, I think we'll talk probably right after Christmas time. We'll record again. Hopefully by then I'll have a lot more to say about it. But who knows? Maybe I'll come back and say, sorry, I've only been playing Breakfast Tycoon or whatever.
Well, that's obviously the goatee. So
that's the goatee.
But yeah, I'd say overall, I am really enjoying the game. I understand people's frustrations, but it's not my goatee for sure.
Okay, you can already decide like this isn't going to overtake. Okay,
I mean,
taking away your obvious pick for goatee, does it compete with the likes of some of the other high quality games this year? Is it up there? Is it fighting for second place?
I don't know.
Or is it hard to say yet?
Ghost of Tsushima was excellent.
It sure was.
Because the thing for me, it's always about at the end of the day, it's about the story. Do I connect with the characters? I really like the emotional parts. I know Derek's probably throwing up right now as I'm saying that.
But he's not listening. That's fine.
Well, I think he just sensed it, like the force.
Got it. He could just sense. Oh, is there sensitivity coming?
Gross. I'm super into those emotional moments. So I mean, there's also Last of Us Part 2 that happened this year. So I would say top 5 probably.
That's still really good.
Yeah.
In a year that I feel like looking back on it is actually a very strong year. And being the quote unquote Nintendo guy on our podcast, Nintendo to me hasn't delivered the stuff that I've been wanting from them. Like I'm not an Animal Crossing person. Paper Mario is fine, but it's never been my jam. But even without the big hitters from Nintendo, in my opinion, it's still been an amazing year of games.
Yeah,
so
no, absolutely.
That says a lot. So I of course need to play this one more for our Game of the Year stuff that we end up doing, but also just for myself as a big fan of what CD Projekt Red has done previous games. Never really got into The Witcher 1, but I know the story. Totally played through The Witcher 2 and did multiple endings, kind of reloaded a save due to a couple different choices at the end. Love that game. And then Witcher 3, one of my favorites of this whole generation. Some of the spin-off stuff with Gwent and Thronebreaker I thought were really fun, really good. And so my expectations and excitement for this is high, but then once it arrived, it was a combination of things going on personally, not having the time that I needed to really play. And I can't play this game in front of kids, so there's not the kind of thing I can kind of sit off on the side and play. And if they see the screen, who cares? I can't do that with this game.
Yeah.
So that's different from most games, even like an Assassin's Creed. As long as I'm just exploring or hunting or looking for treasure, it doesn't matter if they happen to walk by and see that. Because for the most part, that game is not just wall-to-wall sex and violence. It's not.
Yeah.
So
or dongs, because when you create your character, you can just see dong. So
I appreciated your guys' heads up on that because I decided to skip that altogether. I don't need to see that. No, thank you. Hard pass. No pun intended. But anyway, I am looking forward to digging into this one a little bit more. I'm also looking forward to some of the games that Nintendo announced in their recent Indie World. How's that transition, huh?
Yeah.
So Nintendo announced kind of last second, like they've been doing a lot recently. Hey, we've got a Nintendo Direct coming up with some of our partners, and this was their Indie World Direct that they aired this past week. So I thought I'd highlight a few of these. There was a lot announced, most of it even I, someone who likes indie games, don't care about. But I'm just going to highlight the stuff I care about. Dan, feel free to chime in on these or others that you see on the list that you want to call out. But first one worth mentioning, I think, because they are pretty big names in video games, not just in indies, and that's Spelunky 1 and 2 are both officially going to be on Switch in summer of 2021. So it's weird that it's that far away. I don't know if it has to do with any exclusivity deal they might have had with Sony for keeping it just on the PS4, but it could also just be it's not ready for the Switch yet. I don't know. But both of those games, and I already thought Spelunky 1 was on the Switch. I didn't know it wasn't, but
there you go.
Both of those will be on the Switch in the summertime, and the people that play it do love Spelunky 2, so that's cool. Do you care about Spelunky games? Not really.
No, I've never actually played them, though.
Okay. All right. They're fine. They're roguelikes. I mean, they're not my thing. I like Rogue Legacy a little more when it comes to those kind of games. But once stuff like Dead Cells came out, then I was like, oh, this is my kind of roguelike right here. This is one
It does look fun, but it's just not something I see myself like actually playing.
Yeah. So. Totally agree.
But the second game, Tim, This is
Fistifluffs?
Fist of Fluffs, Tim.
Are you serious?
Dude, Fist of Fluffs? I
The
mean, come
cats
on.
fighting?
Dude, hilarious.
I do.
Also,
Okay. Can I just say this? The titling, A
yeah.
plus.
Oh, absolutely. The trailer that they showed during the presentation was funny, but the music was not appropriate. There's actually my wife pulled up because I showed her that trailer and she's like, "Oh my god, this looks hilarious," and I kind of want to play it. But there's a trailer that has like metal music playing over it,
Right.
and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
way better. So like the
Okay.
music just is way more fitting with like these cats just
The
flailing at each other
music
with the
during the indie world was not great.
no, it was
Yeah,
not metal, Tim, and
yeah.
metal's the
It was
best
not
music. So
metal.
it was not
Yeah,
metal.
this one, like the visuals and movement and physics stuff, all reminded me a little bit of Untitled Goose Game,
Mm.
um, which take it or leave it. Some people like the way that looks and play it. Some people don't. I think it's okay. But it does look like fun multiplayer craziness. Comes out early next year. Totally something that if I show my kids, especially my daughter, this trailer, I know I'm going to be spending money on this game. So we'll see.
It's
We'll see.
basically so it to describe it to be more specific, Tim. It's basically on the level of quality with Smash Brothers, but it's all cats. So it's just
It's
all
not
cats.
anywhere close to Smash Brothers.
It's Smash Brothers. It's
Oh
Smash
my
Cats.
gosh.
Smash Cats.
All right. Well, the next one I wanted to highlight is from a development company that I really admire. I love what they did with the Shovel Knight games and even what they just put out at the end of last year. They put out King of Cards, the final entry in their Shovel Knight treasure trove. Really fantastic. Love all the Shovel Knight stuff. I really do. So I thought maybe we're going to get another Shovel Knight from them over time, or maybe some new, similar type game. Turns out we are, but it's a totally different vein, and it's called Cyber Shadow. This reminds me a lot of old Ninja Gaiden games, but also looks a lot like Shovel Knight. Really cool and clean and crisp pixel art. So it's pixel art, but it also really well designed and lots of really cool monsters that you fight, enemies you fight, weapons you can use. I mean, you're a ninja. So it looks
Yeah.
fantastic, and it comes out January 26th. So again, I love you and I talked about this. I love the announcement and games coming out soon type thing. And I know this is an indie game, so it's a little different, but I'm really pumped for this one.
I
I'm
couldn't
excited.
I couldn't quite tell though if it's Yacht Club actually making it or if they're publishing it because I swear I saw another name when the trailer popped up.
Oh, could be. Yeah, I'll look
Um,
that up. Could be. Did you play Shovel Knight? Are you into those games at all?
yeah, I did not play any of the I don't know if you want to call them expansions or DLCs or whatever they are, but I did play just the original Shovel Knight and I actually really did enjoy it.
Yeah, so
Um,
this is designed by a single designer, looks like, but
okay,
it's being published by Yacht Club Games.
okay, so not made by
Um,
Yacht Club, but they're publishing it, so that's still cool though because that means they're expanding.
Mechanical Head Studios. He's the
Okay,
sole member of Mechanical Head Studios. It's just him.
sure. I mean, Yacht
Um,
Club started off pretty small also.
yeah, it
Um,
looks like Yacht Club kind of picked it up and helped him. Basically, they discovered it
okay.
and said, "Hey, let's join up together on this. We'll
Yeah.
publish this and help you get to the finish line." That's cool. That's
Yeah, I
great.
mean, if they're doing publishing now, then that's pretty. They're getting bigger. They probably got a decent amount of money for Shovel Knight that sold a lot.
Yep.
So
Well, that's a good call out. I didn't know this was not made by them, but I'm still excited about it. It
yeah,
very much has that same vibe to it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
it just looks much faster and ninja-y. So I'm excited for that
I
one.
like ninjas. So
I do too. All right. I'm gonna jump down to Super Meat Boy Forever because this one looks like a lot of fun yet again. It does look like just more Super Meat Boy.
mhm.
I'll be honest. But I think that game's a lot of fun. It's got, as they describe it, thousands of levels. So there's gonna be tons and tons of content here. I remember when they first talked about Super Meat Boy Forever, it looked like more of an endless runner Meat Boy experience, and I thought this does not look fun. But whether they've changed it a long time ago or maybe I misunderstood that original trailer. This one is clearly showing this is full on puzzle platform, fast paced, crazy levels, just like we all know and love from the first Super Meat Boy game. And yeah, it's going to be nuts. It comes out this week, actually. It should be out on Wednesday this week.
Uh, I get a sense, Tim, that you're not a fan of cats because you also skipped the other cat game. So
All right,
I think
talk to me about Calico. Ugh.
you're you're not showing any appreciation for the pussycats. So
Well, it is out now, so you guys can go try it now. So here's the problem with Calico. It's like Animal Crossing meets Crazy Cat People, and I've got so little interest in both of those things.
but it looks boring AF as you described.
That was my note on that game. As I'm watching it, I'm jotting down my thoughts, and that's the first thing that came to
Boring
mind.
AF.
Yeah, yeah. The lady who introduced it though was very excited.
That's the
She's a
one
cat
where you
lady.
can ride a cat, right? Is that
I
if I
don't
recall?
remember if you can
I
ride a
think there
cat
was a
or not.
trailer where you were riding.
But
Maybe
I
I'm
know
thinking of
that you're
something
like
else.
also kind of cat people. I don't know.
Yeah, so in that one, yeah, there's yeah, you can ride some animals, and there's
Okay.
definitely a big roly poly cat that you can ride, and I mean that's a 10 out of 10, Tim. So you know, yeah.
Oh, there was another one that I think you might like just for the style of it. It's got a very anime style. It's called Gnosia. Gnosia. Um,
Mm.
the concept is very much Among Us, kind of the um, I forget the name. There's a concept that they've actually got a name for that now because
Yeah.
that
Oh
Among
yeah, I
Us.
remember that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But anyway, the idea here being that it looks like it's mostly dialogue based. I don't think you're actually going around doing any activities and then pause to talk. I think it's just dialogue and you're trying to look for clues and hints based on what's said.
Yeah.
But the idea there is also, hey, there's an intruder within our crew here, and
Yeah.
we need to get rid of him. So it's a very similar
It's like
concept, but
one of those visual novel games, kind of like the I don't know if you're
what it
familiar with
looks like.
Danganronpa,
Yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. So
yeah. But it's got the Among Us concept of
yeah,
identifying the evil
traitor.
person in your midst. Hey, here's one that I recommend right now. It's on sale right now, so you guys should go grab it. And that's Grindstone. This is one of my favorite mobile games that came out last. I want to say it came out last year, but I played it because of Apple Arcade. I did a short subscription to Apple Arcade for a little while, and Grindstone was by far my favorite game. I played it all the way to the end, finished all the levels. I'm sure they've added more since then. I think it's super fun and it's got a ton of personality to it. I just think it's really, really clever and really
Hmm.
fun puzzle game. So highly recommend that one. I don't know if it's worth $15. That's pretty steep, but definitely go try it out on your phones. You can try out Apple Arcade for like $5 a month and try Grindstone there. So,
Sure.
but I have heard from folks like Pierre Schneider from IGN. He said that he liked it on phone and loves it even more on Switch because of the touch controls and it's a much bigger screen. And apparently, it's
Mm.
just a better experience. But I'm sure you could play it on your iPad, and that's the way to go. But anyway, love, love, love Grindstone. Last one I'll mention, and we can circle back to any that we skipped if you want. But Among Us, of course, we mentioned earlier. That was a cool kind
Yes.
of, hey, it's out now announcement right at the end of that Indie World presentation. Anything else jump out at you that we either skipped or that you want
Um,
to highlight?
shout out to Trash Sailors, just because that's a great name for a game. Um, it also looks pretty unique.
I think Derek, after this episode, is going to ask us to rename the podcast that, and
Trash
then fire
Sailors.
him. He's like, "I quit. Your podcast is now called Trash Sailor."
Yeah, be like you're being a goddamn trash sailor.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, go check that out. If you like other indie games, there was some other stuff announced here that not all of it caught my attention. I was really hoping for a update on Sports Story, but
Mm,
that's still kind of a general 2021 release. So that's one that I'm very hyped for.
yeah.
But last thing, and we already kind of talked about this a little bit. The last piece of news that I thought was notable. Um, there's other pieces of news too, like how the Switch outsold everything yet again. I think it's 24 straight months now, something like that. That it's the number one selling console. So good on them for having this much success. I hope this means they're saving up that money to build a Switch Pro or two or something. But
Yeah.
who knows?
Slight
Who knows?
slight step above the Wii U, Tim. Slight step above.
Just slightly.
Just
Yeah,
slightly. Just a small
yeah.
step.
It's nice to
So
see them succeeding. I hope that turns into a great follow up. We'll see.
yeah.
Um, so if there's other news that I'm missing, feel free to throw something out there. But I just wanted to mention we talked a lot about Cyberpunk 2077 and how they really missed the mark with the PS4 and Xbox One versions. That doesn't mean that they're not good or fun to play at all. It just means they're just not up to par with what everyone was wanting, and especially not up to par with what the PC version and probably next gen versions are going to be. So, because of all of this, all the glitches and all the issues and all the refunds that are happening and stuff, Sony just flat out removed Cyberpunk 2077 from their store.
They did.
They put out a big statement about it, and it's just gone. Like if you already own it, of course you have it, but you can no longer purchase it at the moment
Well, they,
from their
they said they
online
would be
store.
doing refunds, right, on behalf of
Yeah.
CD Projekt Red because they're just so it's weird because like CG Projekt Red said they were gonna do refunds that right, and then they
But then they
took it
backtracked.
back, and
Yeah.
then Sony's like, all right, well, I guess we'll
So
do it,
either
but
they
guess
said they
what?
were going to, or they made it sound like they might.
Yeah,
And then when it came down to like, oh no, we never said that. So something happened, some
yeah,
miscommunication. I don't know what it was. But when they officially made it known, like, no, we're not giving refunds, then Sony was like, oh my gosh, all right, we'll do refunds.
And we're not going to sell your game digitally.
And we're done selling your game until your game's actually ready. So
Yeah.
I think that's actually a good move. You're looking out for your customers. That makes sense. When I saw that though, I can't think of another example of a game that came out that caused this much of an issue that it was pulled from a store,
Yeah.
except for Arkham Knight on PC. I think was so broken that it was removed from stores. I think.
That sounds about right. I know Horizon Zero Dawn was fairly broken too on PC.
On PC, right? But I don't think it was pulled from the store. Any stores though.
That I don't know, but I remember it definitely was not up to snuff. Maybe not as bad as Arkham, but
usually when a game is pulled, it's because of public outcry because of the content or something, right? But this is crazy to me. This to me feels like a unique scenario here. But
I don't think it's Sony's responsibility to refund this game at all, to be honest.
I don't think it is either.
But they're doing it probably because, you know what, they're like, this will make us look good right now. I mean, obviously somebody will find something to be mad about, at a later time, is because that's just how things work. But right now it makes them look good. But yeah, it's just, I don't think it's their responsibility. They didn't make the game. They're supplying the game, but it's just it's digital data. Like they're the storefront. Like, yeah, we'll sell your game. Like, it's crazy.
I do think it's a weird move though, because Cyberpunk 2077, by most accounts, is not a complete broken game.
It seems fairly. It seems kind of pretty broken on the baseline one for some people. That's why I said it's like it's a case by case basis, because some people are just having crazy issues, and then like me, I've had just like a handful of crashes, which I mean still sucks, but it's only a handful compared to some people where it's just like every 15 minutes or something's happening. So
yeah, but what's crazy to me is that there's so many games that come out across all stores, and a lot of them turns out either suck, just flat out are not good, or are broken. I've played plenty of games that are just, oh wow, that does not work. I shouldn't have bought that on the Switch.
I think it's how they advertised it. I really truly think it's just comes down to that. To the people who are just like, I'm gonna be like smart about how I'm angry about this, I think it's because they advertised it one way, and then when they bought the baseline one, it's like, well, this is not what you sold me on. You lied to me. So I think really just
if someone plays the Assassin's Creed on a base PS4, the new Assassin's Creed game, and it's buggy and glitchy and doesn't look as good, but anywhere close as good, and maybe even has something that breaks their save, corrupts their save file. Do they get the Sony remove Assassin's Creed from the store? Or is it just the momentum behind all this?
But did they have footage of the game before it got released on the base? That's the thing. I think that's the difference. I think as long as you're showing, because kind of like how when I get cranky when they don't show me a freaking Dragon Age gameplay trailer, I'm like, just show me the goddamn gameplay. That's pretty much applies here, Tim. They're not showing people the gameplay, and it's taken years for the game to come out, so it's like you had plenty of time to come up with something, right? Then it just seems like you're trying to do something inappropriate, like you're trying to hide something. And I think that's what people are getting cranky about. They're like, well, you were hiding something. That's what you're trying to hide. So I think that's the main thing. But obviously there's also just some people that just want to dogpile just for the sake of it. But I think if anyone's having serious issues with their copy and they have the PS4 or Xbox One version, and then they're getting crashes very often, then I think they have a legitimate reason to be upset. So
yeah, I think so too. That's fair.
Don't threaten the developers, but
no, I do think CDPR should own things when it goes great and they make a masterpiece, and they should own things when it's not going well, and some of the platforms you put this out on, it's struggling. And so I don't know what that is. Maybe you need to have them, as long as you've got a capture of your crash and can prove certain glitches, then you can get a refund or something. Like, you might even say that's not very customer friendly. Fair, but they need to own some piece of this to say, if you can show how broken it is, if there's certain elements we will approve refunds for, and if you can show that you're having that experience, boom, here's your refund. I understand that they don't want to just give refunds to every crybaby out there who is unhappy. Like, okay, I get that, but Yeah, I wish there was a little more ownership of because they've been basking in the glow of being everyone's favorite for so long, and then now that they're really under the gun, it's like, well, you should own that too and figure out a
I
way to
mean,
make it better.
plus the game being delayed multiple times. I actually completely forgot to even,
That's
sorry, excuse
true.
me, mention that because I just forgot and then I just realized. I mean, they delayed it how many times at the end there?
And they said for reasons they're trying to get it the best version possible
Yeah,
across all the platforms, and
yeah.
they didn't do that. That's a really good point. So if I'm
But
a PS4 or Xbox One only owner and I get this game there because I saw they delayed it to make sure it works well on these,
mhm,
and I get it and it doesn't work well on these, I want my money back. I
yeah,
empathize with that. That's a good point.
yeah. And I think cuz and I wish I could remember the specifics cuz there was there's been so many articles and things coming out, like the game's not even been out for 2 weeks, but there was I guess there was like a conference call at CD Projekt Red, and some of just like the people who made the game, the developers talking to like higher ups, because I think the higher ups were like, hey, let's just all kind of like gather together and discuss the situation, and I guess a lot of the developers were just like just shots fired, just being like what's the deal here? Like why did we release this game? Like asking a bunch of questions and like
Mm,
the execs kind of being sort of like vague about things
right.
and not quite being direct with their answer with
Yep.
the developers were asking them, but like the developers like supposedly asking them some pretty just like straight up blunt questions and
That's good though. See,
yeah.
this could be a thing where it's like, hey, they are learning the hard way, a whole bunch of hard truths about the way development, marketing, customer service, all that stuff should work and should make them better. It should make them improve not only this game, but also for their next round of, big game release.
Mhm.
Hopefully they'll get better. The other hand, they could take the very childish approach where it's like, no, screw you guys. Too bad for you. We did what we did. And like, so it depends on what route they end up taking.
I
Hopefully they
mean,
learn from it and get better.
hopefully nothing happens to them because I'm also hearing, well, I think one the within the past couple of days there's some potentially serious lawsuits coming their way.
Oh boy.
Um, not I don't know if it's necessarily just like individuals, but like the again just like false advertising type stuff. Like,
It's probably that guy who took a week off of work and now is crying because it's not the game he wanted. It's probably that guy.
listen, Tim, taking a week off of work to play a game can be a glorious thing. Right?
I
Can be a
have never
glorious
done
thing.
that, and I don't see that ever happening.
A week is a bit absurd. I mean, to
Yeah,
be fair, I had a week off when the PS5 came out, but that was just perfect timing. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I
Yeah.
did take the day off when Final Fantasy VII remake came out. So,
Worth it.
yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been able to finagle time off of work. Now, it's happened coincidentally in a convenient way that way, but I've never been able to take off work just for that specific reason. Because, when you got kids at home, you take time off work. That's
Yeah,
just time off of your office work, and now that means you're working at home all day.
yeah. You're doing dad work instead of
Yeah,
work work.
exactly. So it's not
Yeah.
exactly like, cool, I get to sit in my jams and play video games. No, it's not going to happen. Anyway, all right. Well, we'll see how all that unfolds. I'm looking forward very much to digging into this game a little more. I'm glad that I got. It sounds like you also have a good experience technically with it. I'm having a good experience with it
Yeah.
technically. I'm ready for the story. I need to get to the some of the big story hooks, the big story through line moments, and hopefully by the time I get there, I've also found some combat elements that
Yeah.
kind of make me go, oh, I like that. I'll stick to that because I know there's a lot of different ways you can approach combat too.
Yeah.
So
If you
hopefully there's
haven't,
something that hooks me.
if there's certain guns you haven't experienced, bounce around to all of them and see
Yeah,
what clicks for
get
you.
the right one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And find that Skippy gun because it's just a fun gun and it's actually pretty
Sweet.
useful.
All right.
Um, and then yeah, just try to get to that like end of the chapter one because once you get like everything that happens right at the very end, then there's definitely a lot of like cutscenes there, but like
Yeah.
the cutscenes are very cool. And then when you're introduced to the second major character in the preceding chapter, I think once you hit that, and if you're digging the vibes, then I think that will kind of carry you to
It's also
continue.
encouraging that even if this ends up being a game that I like but don't love, like maybe the combat just never really is my favorite thing. Because as I've said
Mhm.
before, never got into Fallout and that kind of thing. But it's not an incredibly long game. Like I don't have to spend 70,
Like
80,
Assassin's
90
Creed.
hours in this. Like Assassin's Creed, which I'm up to 75 hours now. Holy crap.
Yeesh.
Assassin's Creed or Red Dead, The Witcher 3. These are games that require a huge commitment just to play the main story. And so from what I've heard here is You might have a better narrative experience if you do a lot of the side stuff, but you really can mainline through it in a reasonable amount of time if you really want to. So that is
Mhm.
also a bit of a relief too, to know that I'm not necessarily committing to like the next 3 months of this is my game, which is nice.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Well, and it's cool because like I don't think I asked you. What did you pick? Corpo, Street Kid, or is it Nomad?
Yeah, I picked Street Kid for the first one.
Okay. So like if you do one of the other two options on your second playthrough, that's a little bit of a different experience too.
Yeah, I know you start in different
So
places and you end
yeah.
up getting onto the same mission track at some point pretty
Okay.
early on. But at the beginning, I know you start in different areas and there's a
Mhm.
different path there. And there's also different responses and conversations. I've noticed that it'll say like this
Right.
is a street kid response, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
like some
yeah,
knowledge you might have about the name of a drug or some gangster who went to jail or whatever. So
yeah.
yeah, it's cool the way they did that. But all right, well we are going way longer than I realized. Sorry about that, but um, we missed you this week, Derek. If you happen to be listening, I don't think you are. You're probably doing other important stuff, but missed having you on here. But it was also kind of nice, nice to not have you on here. I'm kidding.
It was less dramatics. You know, we didn't have to deal with his whining about interesting games that we want to talk about,
It's
and
true.
not
Or
have to
watching
listen
him
to
completely check out when we start talking about Nintendo stuff.
yeah
So
him telling us that like we talk like women, but then he says a billion things, and it's just like, all right, well, that's fine. Apparently, you can just rattle off a bunch of things, but we can't. So that's fine. I'm gonna
no,
air
it's
my grievances right
so
now.
true. So true. But
This is
listen,
Festivus Tim, and I'm gonna air my grievances.
that's right. The airing of grievances is one of the best traditions of Festivus.
Exactly.
But listen, thank you, Dan, for taking time to talk tonight. And
Of
all
course.
you listeners, thanks for giving us some time this Christmas week. I hope you have an awesome Christmas or whatever holiday you're celebrating. For us, it's Christmas time.
Kwanzaa,
Yeah.
Hanukkah,
Whatever it is. I
Festivus.
hope it's good. I hope you have lots of good food. I hope you have time to play some video games. I hope that for myself as well, especially without having family in town. I'm hoping for a lot of extra video game time. We'll see.
Whatever Tom Cruise celebrates in Scientology and his make believe religion.
Tom
I don't know.
Cruise just celebrates Tom Cruise. Okay.
Yes. That's what their Christmas is. It's Tom Cruise Day.
That's exactly.
It's Cruise Day.
And that might be the title of this episode. I was wondering what I would call this one. That might be it right there.
Sweet. Should I
Tom
jump up
Cruise
on the
celebrates
couch
Tom Cruise. Yeah, you should.
and just
You
talk about
definitely
how,
should.
yeah, I love her. Ah!
Oh my gosh. If that's not a gay man trying to act straight, I don't know what it is.
How sad.
How sad. Come out, man. It's fine.
It's
It's
safe
a
there.
it's a it's a safe world out there now. Come on out.
Yeah, it's very progressive.
All right. Well, you guys have a great week. Thanks, Dan. We'll see you all later.
Peace.